If you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, loud. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes gravity. Choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't have it. He knows his whole back to these ropes. It don't matter, he's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stacked that he knows when he goes back to this mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go back to this moment and hope it don't pass him.
Listen, we can talk about the flag, but let's talk about the team. Wait.
Dude, I love that new intro again, Jason. And I love the clip that you picked, of you and Mark arguing so much. I love it. Hey, everybody, welcome to Trending in the AM, right here live, DSM Media, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Hit that retweet button, that share button on Facebook. If you're on YouTube, the thumbs up and the subscribe button, very important to do. The road to 1,000 subscribers is on. Love to get there as soon as possible. But the only way we can do that is with your support. And we are supported because we are also brought to you by Manscaped, the leader in men's grooming products, the GOAT and below the waist maintenance. Make sure you check them out, manscaped.com. Promo code DSM at checkout. It gets you 20% off. It gets you free shipping and lets them know Team DSM sent you. Like I said, this is Trending in the AM. I am Phil Stifle at Bearded Knowledge on Twitter. My co-host, my man, Jason Voorhees at Mustang3651. Good morning, Jason. And again, thank you for a kick-ass intro video.
I appreciate it, man. I actually have fun doing those videos.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Getting better at it.
Yeah, no. I like I said, you pulled a perfect clip of you and Mark arguing, and I just love it. And it's like when you go, no, Bob, when you go like that, that's my cue to know the intro video is almost over. I better put my coffee down because it's like the perfect 10-second warning right there.
Yeah, it's like time's ready. The time is now.
Time is up. Time is ready. That is right. Well, we got a jam-packed show today. We're bringing back today a series I've been doing off and on for the last year. It's called A Football Journey. I've got a great relationship with the Pro Sports Agency. It's a sports agency headed up by Buddy Walters. We got Coach Dale Carlson. He's a wide receivers coach for the TSL linemen, but he's been coaching football for 40 years approximately. So we're going to talk about football, his journey as a football lifer. And, he's not overly familiar with the Eagles situation, but we're going to talk a little Eagles football with him as well, get his opinion. I mean, he's coaching wide receivers right now. So we're going to talk a little bit about that with him when he joins the air. Then after that, we're getting really close to Major League Baseball having an agreement. It almost actually got done yesterday, and they extended their deadline to today at 5 o'clock. So we'll have to see how that goes. But, yeah, I mean, we're just going to talk football, and we're going to talk more general football and baseball today based off of, the guest in the conversation. He's scheduled to join us here in about 2 minutes here, Dale Carlson. So we basically got to stall for 2 minutes, Jason. My intro went a little quicker than I'm used to. Normally I drag it out, but now we got 60 seconds to kill before he comes on.
It's all good, man. I'm just shout out to you. I'm a little jealous. You're down there in sunny Florida. Well, it doesn't look too sunny right now.
Yeah, it's a little cloudy this morning.
And I'm still stuck here in cold.
What's the temperature up there in Philly today?
I'm not sure. I didn't even check. I didn't check the weather this morning when I got up.
It's going to be 82 and sunny today.
Looks like 35 degrees right now.
I got 82 today. That's the high. I'll be sitting poolside all day working on my tan today.
Yeah, I definitely have Florida in my sights.
There you go. All right, so we got him now in the back room here. Again, this is Dale Carlson. He's one of the clients over at Pro Level Sports Agency. Dale Carlson, how you doing today? Welcome to Trending in the AM.
Hey, good morning.
Glad to have you on. And, again, I'm Phil. I'm the one that you've been talking with. This is my co-host, Jason Voorhees here. So I've been doing some research and some reading on you. And like I said, you're the wide receiver coach at the TSL, lineman. but you've been coaching football teams for about 40 years. And as Vince from Pro Level Sports Agency told me, that was like 10 years before he was even born. So what's it? Tell us a little bit about, being like in football for literally, because I mean, you even played football in college. I mean, football has been your life for 40, 50 years now. What's that like, having that kind of a, longevity in the sport?
Well, it's something that I just had a real passion for. I mean, even as a kid growing up, I was the guy that was organizing the football games in the park in Chicago where I grew up. It was just one of those things that I just loved, and it was interesting. I was my senior year of high school, and our offensive coordinator was after our last game, and he said, "So what are you going to do?" And I said, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm going to go here. I don't know. I thought about being a police officer. And he said, "I think you'd be a really good coach." And, that kind of light bulb went on. And so I decided to go find a school. I wasn't a very good player, so I decided to go find a school where I could play, which I did, a small school in suburban Chicago, Concordia University. And, from there, I played, Division III football. I was NAI football back at that point, but, small college football. And I started out as a high school teacher and a coach. And at one point, I decided I wanted to be a college coach. So I did what a lot of people do. I worked for almost free for a couple of years until that started to roll. And, then I decided I wanted to be a head coach. So at 30, I got my first small college head coaching job. And the thing just, steamrolled, from there. And I went through, everything from Division III NAI, Division II, Division I FCS, to, finally having a chance to, coach a little pro football, with the spring league. So
Yep.
It's just a passion, and it's something that I like, and I like teaching the game, and I like teaching, people how to be successful. And so, that's how my journey went, through all that time period. Of course, typical college coach, we moved, like 18 times, and, just had that lifestyle.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like, you've been a head coach, and have you always been an offensive minded coach? Because when you look at it, you've coached offensive line, wide receivers, tight ends, and head coaches. Have you always been more geared towards the offensive side of the ball? Is that just the natural way you've gone, or?
Yeah, that's where, when I started in college, ironically, when I was a high school coach, I was an offensive line coach, but I was also a defensive coordinator.
Okay.
And then my first job at Elmhurst College, which is in suburban Chicago, I worked for a really, really good coach by the name of Tom Beck. He's actually in the College Football Hall of Fame, and just was a tremendous offensive mind, really, really sharp. And I after 2 years there, Tom actually ended up in the old USFL, the first iteration, with the Chicago Blitz as an assistant coach. So I went down to this tiny school in central Indiana, Franklin College, with a coach by the name of Red Flood. And Red was one of the most innovative coaches I was ever around. I mean, he's at that point was in his early 60s and is throwing the football all over the place. Now, this is the mid 80s when only he and probably Miles Davis and BYU were doing those sorts of things. And so that's where I really got kind of a passion for developing offensive football, was with Red. So then from there on, I was just, I was an offensive coach. I was always, as a head coach, I called the plays or was the offensive coordinator. So, I kind of went that path, from those experiences as a young assistant.
So being in the field for as long as you have been, what are some of the major changes that you've witnessed as far as in football?
Well, the rules specifically moving towards offense. It all started with the ability to use the hands in the offensive line way back in the late 70s, early 80s. That really started to change the game. And then, now the no contact rules down the field, all of those things really, I think turned the game to what it is today, as a more offensive, product, because people want to see the ball, going up and down the field. People want to see points. I think that's what makes the game, exciting for most people to watch. Now, I think the real hardcore football fans still want to see great defense and want to see special teams plays, those sorts of things. But I think what draws it is the fans. And I think that's when you look at any of the alternative leagues that have come through, or the arena leagues. It's about producing offense and putting points on the board, because that's what most people want to see. So I think that's has been the biggest change. And so I think here's the thing with football, though, is that what's old is new. And so, you've come into the spread offenses and some of those things, but there were coaches doing some of those things back in the 40s and 50s, and it was just people reinventing that. Taking the old wishbone, which I ran as a high school coach. We ran the wishbone, and changing that into the read option, or whether it's going to be a quarterback keep, or now he's going to fake the zone read and come off and throw a bubble screen, or then the natural progression to the RPOs. It's just option football. So it's just reinventing what people have done in the past. But I think those are the trends, making it more of an offensive game.
That's interesting. I love that. So you bring up the spring league, that you're a part of, and all the alternative football leagues. It seems like in the last few years, more and more of these, extra leagues, these developmental leagues, if you want to call them, or the semi-pro or the step down from the pros. There's more and more of them popping up, and some of them last a year or two, some of them don't. We got the USFL starting back up. I really feel like it's really crucial that some of these leagues really put their head down and make a go at it, because it gives young kids. I mean, you've coached in a lot of Division II and III schools. These guys don't get the opportunity to get professional game film on record. How important is it for these smaller leagues to really be successful for these players that are going to college?
I think it's incredibly important to give those players a look. I mean, I had a number of very, very good football players. I was head coach at Ohio Dominican University, and we had a safety who just was tremendously gifted athletically. And, he went to his pro day. We got him in at Kent State University, and he was by far the best athlete that was there. But yet there was still that bias, nobody signed him to a camp. And I get it that, you're not going to necessarily hire or sign a guy out of a workout. But I was shocked that nobody even brought him into OTAs just to give him a chance, because you look at his film, it was really good. He was a dominant player. As I said, a physical specimen, but yet couldn't get a look. I mean, I had a quarterback that threw for 15,000 yards over a 4-year period. And when the Blesto guys came in, and they said, well, we can't quite get him measured to be, over 6 foot tall. And yet, you look at his production, playing hurt, playing, every down, throwing the ball all over the place, and yet couldn't get a look. And ironically, we thought he was going to go the AFL, the Old Arena Football League route, but that would be a way for him to get the exposure. But then they folded up the first time, and so he is now a very successful college football coach. But I think that these things are important. I mean, I looked at some of the players that we had in the spring league team this past spring, and we had some really, really good football players. We had some guys that got into camps, got cut. We had a couple of guys, though, that ended up playing in Canada this past year, and then we had a number of teams signed in the USFL draft. And I think they're hopefully going to go and get an opportunity to show what they can do, because sometimes you need 2 or 3 years to play. You're not going to be ready when you start out, and so you need those opportunities. Whether it's the USFL, the XFL, whatever. Some of the arena leagues, they need those chances to show that they can play, to get some film, and hopefully get a chance to go to the next level.
Yep. So, I mean, with the XFL, I mean, that's debuting next year, the USFL this year. It came out a few weeks ago that the XFL and the NFL are kind of working together, sort of, to make sure rules are the same and to help be a pipeline. And they're just being a partner together. You think it's important for the Spring League, the USFL, all of these side leagues to work with the NFL? Do you think that's something that will improve, their longevity and their success?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, actually, we were the spring league this year. The NFL, Harbaugh at Baltimore wants to change the overtime rules, and so and to tell you, I couldn't sit here and explain exactly what we did. We actually played in an overtime game that we won, but it was a new way to to set up overtime to make it a little fair and not just, whoever wins the coin toss goes down, scores the first touchdown and wins. So, we actually did that rule and actually had a game so the NFL could talk about it. So I don't know where it's going to go anyplace, but I think that ability to work together, with the NFL is important. And I think the XFL, whatever deal it was, however this is going to work out for them, I think it gives them some credibility. I think going out the gate because they are partnering with the NFL. Now, again, I think the USFL's got some tremendous upside going here too. They're obviously going to be first out of the gate, and they're going to have the TV coverage. So I think the more that people can collaborate with the NFL, I think the better off it's going to be for the spring leagues, so to speak, all of them to be able to have a chance to stay.
Yeah. So Jason and I, we're this is a Philadelphia-based network. We're in Philly. We spend most of our mornings talking football and Eagles football on here. So it would be really dumb of me not to get a guy with your coaching history. Yeah, I know you're a Chicago guy. I'm guessing you're a Bears fan growing up.
Yeah, I'm a Bears fan, diehard Bears fan.
Yeah, I mean, well, we could talk about that travesty this year, and what happened with Coach Nagy and and Justin Fields and the 17 different quarterbacks you guys had in Chicago this year. But we got to talk Eagles for a few minutes. I want to get some of your opinions. I know I texted you yesterday. I know you said you kind of had an idea, but first off, you're a wide receivers coach. You're special. That's what you've been doing lately. And you're in a spring development league. Jalen Reagor. He was the Eagles' first-round draft pick a couple years ago, and he has completely just nowhere near lived up to the hype. And actually, the Philadelphia organization as a whole has struggled to develop young wide receivers. It's been since, Jason, what was Jeremy Maclin? Was that 2012, 2011? That was the last rookie first-round wide receiver that we had that even had a remotely successful career. So Jalen Reagor has obviously massively struggled. He is still going to be on the team this year going into his third year because he's on that rookie deal and whatnot. If you were part of the Eagles organization, if you were coaching someone like Jalen Reagor that had all this talent and all this potential, and I mean, literally, there's people that just saying he shouldn't even be in the NFL at this point. That's how much he struggled. What would you be doing with a guy like that to kind of help him turn the corner a little bit?
Well, again, not actually ever being in the room or coaching, in the situation, but just from an outsider's perspective looking in, I think it's important to make sure that your players understand what their craft is and how to execute their craft, meaning what are the individual techniques that you have to master in the offense that we're running? What are the releases you have to have? How can I set up the different defensive backs that I have to play? And then, you really have to do a deep dive into looking at what are the techniques and things that my opponents are going to do. If I'm going to play the Cowboys and the I was going to say the Redskins, that's not the right term, the Washington football team, the Commanders, whatever they are now, but the Giants. I mean, if I'm going to play those people, I have to play those people twice a year, every year. I need to really understand not only what my techniques are and what I do best and what I can do, but also what do I need to do to get open versus that DB that I'm going to be facing, week in and week out. Are they going to put their one guy on me the whole time? Is it going to be, depending whether I'm in the short side or the wide side, whatever? I've got to figure out how can I beat that player. And so as a coach, I want to try and provide as much information about how not only how to execute your own techniques and how to do the things you need to do for our offense to be successful, but then how do I defeat that guy that's going to be standing across from me, 2 times a year for, whatever the 10 years that I play, do that. I think the other thing too is we always expect that first round draft choices are always going to be ready to play. And that's just not the case. Sometimes it takes a while for somebody to develop. I'm going to jump way back, but look at Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice struggled for, a couple of years in the NFL, and it's hard to remember to think that maybe the greatest receiver in the history of the game had some struggles in his early years, but he did. He had trouble catching the football. He had drops all over the place, key drops. That they had to work on. They had to work on his ball catching skills. So, to think about something as simple as ball catching skills, you think, well, every wide receiver, if I played, especially in the Big 8 at TCU and an offense that's throwing the ball all over the field, I should know how to catch the football. Well, that's not necessarily the case. And so, are you willing to do the little things to improve those skills. I forget which who it was. It was one of the pregame shows in the playoffs, and there was a drill that we use with our guys for hand coordination, just tennis balls. And I don't remember if it was Kelsey or who it was, but one of the receivers pregame show, they showed him he was doing this tennis ball drill, just taking tennis balls, juggling them, catching them, just to work on his eye-hand coordination before the game. In the playoffs, so that's game 18, 19, whatever it is, and he's still doing those little things to help make him, an elite receiver. So I think it's finding those little drills, finding those little things that can really help your players in whatever that they're struggling with, and then also the player really taking his craft seriously to work on those things. But sometimes it takes a while for the light bulb to go off. Sometimes it might be a change of scenery. Sometimes it might be a change of voice in the room. I don't know about those things. I will say this, though. I actually live in the Indianapolis area right now, and I think Nick Sirianni is a tremendous offensive coach. Actually, I obviously had a chance to watch him, watch a lot of Colts games here. And, I think what they did within that Colts offense with the revolving door quarterback when he was here, I think they've got the right guy. It's just, developing the players.
That's awesome. I mean, I like all the stuff that you said about Rager. Now being that the Eagles wide receiver situation is so muddled, Devonta Smith is really realistically, the only weapon that they have. And with free agency only a week, I believe it's a week or 2 weeks away, there is a wide receiver from the Bears that I'm curious about. And I think people in Philly would like, someone who's probably around the area, Allen Robinson. What are your thoughts on Allen Robinson? And I know he had a kind of an off season this year, but what could he bring to, the table if the Eagles were to, sign him?
I think Allen Robinson, in my opinion, is not a number one receiver. I think he's probably, but that being said, I think he can be very productive. Who knows what was going on in the Bears, the past couple of seasons, with him either not getting the targets or, there's always was talk in the Chicago media about whether he was actually the type of guy that you wanted to rely on. And I'm not going to make those judgments because I'm not there and I'm not in those rooms and making those decisions. But Allen Robinson has the capability to make some big plays. And again, he may just be one of those guys that just needs a change of scenery and needs to hear a different voice. It was chaos in the Bears, who's developing the offense, who's calling the plays, who's doing this, who's doing that. I think that's difficult. I think it's difficult for anybody to have a revolving door of voices on how to do this or how to do that. But I think Allen Robinson is a tremendous player. I think by default he was, the number one receiver on the Bears the last couple of years. I don't know if he's in that role, but as I said, I think Nick Sirianni is a tremendous offensive football coach, and I think that again what I saw him do, here in Indianapolis with his time, I think that maybe that is a guy that could bolster the Eagles receiving core, and again, it could just be that change of voice that Allen Robinson needs to get himself back to where he was, say, in 2018, 2019.
I love hearing that you have like this high hopes and high praise for Nick Sirianni, because that was actually one thing I wanted to talk to you about was him. So you were the first football coach. You helped start multiple colleges football programs, Ohio Dominion, and what was the other? I'm sorry, I'm trying to switch back.
It's called Tri-State.
Yeah,
Trine University.
Trine University. And you had some very quick success at that program there. I guess when you're starting a college football program from scratch, there's probably very minimal expectations at first. The Eagles, they bring in Nick Sirianni after a 4-12 season. They have all these quarterback controversies with Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts. Literally, there were people that were figuring the Eagles were going to be one of the worst teams in the league this past year. But Nick Sirianni was able, after a very early start of the season where there were some struggles, they lost 4 or 5 games pretty early on there. He was able to turn this team around and lead them to the playoffs, which exceeded almost everybody's expectations. When you have early success as a coach, when you're not expected to have, you're more focused on developing and building the program. does that put extra pressure on you the next year? Because I'm concerned that now the Eagles will have extra expectations when really they're only supposed to be in year 2 of a 3 or 4 year rebuild. But, now having undue expectations because they made that little run.
Well, in today's world, that's very, very true. It's not about what you just did; it's about what you're going to do going forward. And I think, that's going to be a challenge for them. I had a good friend, actually former player, Mike Denbrock. He's now the offense coordinator at LSU. But when Mike was at Notre Dame twice, and he went with the first time with Tyrone Willingham. And he said the worst thing that happened to them is that first year when they should have been rebuilding, they went to one of the, I forget which bowl they went to, but they were, 10-2 or whatever it was, 9-3, and ended up in one of the major New Year's bowls that year. He said that was the worst thing that happened to us because all those guys graduated, and that's when the rebuild started. And, we were close, but, it's Notre Dame, and we got our 5 years, and, we were out. So I think that's true. And I think that's going to be really, really tough. And, I think as you talked about, whether it's getting your first round draft choice squared away so he can be the player that somebody thought he was going to be, or adding some of those players in free agency to get yourself going forward. I think one of the things that the Eagles have in their favor, though, is, let's face it, the East is, Dallas is going to implode like they always do, and who knows where the Giants are going to be. And
you're making a lot of friends on this network from all the listeners. Everybody listening is really happy.
I will say, I think the team to watch out for, though, is Washington. Again, you talk about having a very, very good football coach in Ron Rivera.
Absolutely.
It was obviously those guys rallied around him with his cancer diagnosis and all those things that happened. To me, that's the team that, if they figure out a couple of key players and their quarterback spot, they could actually be a challenge. So, it's going to be. But again, I think, it seems like, maybe they got the quarterback situation straightened out in Philly. Maybe they can add a couple of players here and there. They actually, played so well at the end of the season, the playoff game notwithstanding, but so can you do it? But that's why we sign up for this too, is that can we continue to build on what we've gotten, and if the expectations are high, then that's what we sign up for. We've got to go and meet them. But again, I think there's the right guy there. Now, did they give him the opportunity to do that? That's always the question. And of course, in today's sports, that doesn't happen very often. How many Pittsburgh Steelers franchises are out there that are going to give their coaches, those opportunities to go through a couple of those down years and still keep them around? There's only one. That's the only one.
We greatly appreciate your time. So real quick before we wrap this up, you got the spring league. Will the spring league starting soon again?
Well, the spring league is no more. When Brian Woods struck that deal with the Fox and created the USFL. That's where he put all his eggs, so to speak, in the basket. They bought out the other owners of the spring league. Okay. Fox did, so that they could form the USFL. So, I think somebody hopefully will come up with a void for that. I think the USFL, the XFL, the arena leagues, whatever. I think those are great, but I think there still needs to be some sort of an outdoor league. I know there's some other people, if you get online, you'll find MLFB, you'll find American Spring Football League. You've got groups that are trying to put something out on the field. I think to take that void of truly developmental, for those guys that aren't on a USFL or XFL roster, but need that time to go out there. And and there's a lot of players that don't want to play indoor. I know, I've got some friends that are in the IFL, and they were asking about some of our lineman players from the spring league last year, and I talked to those guys about it, and they just didn't have any interest in doing that. So I think there's a need for an outdoor league that'll develop, and hopefully somebody will come up with that, moving forward. We'll have to see. Again, it all comes down to money and getting investors and stuff.
So, you've been coaching football now for 40 years. You've been in football your entire life. What's next for Coach Carlson? And how much longer are you going to be involved with the game? I mean, are you going to be one of those guys that are going, till you're 85 years old, like Joe Paterno or something like that?
Yeah, no, Tom Moore is my hero. He's still coaching hard in the NFL with Tampa Bay, and he's however old he is. Yeah, I'd like to be able to do that. I really like I guess for me, I've always looked at myself as a teacher, and so I really enjoyed my experience in the spring league because we were really teaching these guys how to be pros and how to develop, and I think that's what I'd like to do moving forward if that opportunity presents itself, whether it's in an indoor setting, whether it's USFL, XFL, something like that. Obviously, as I think all of the spring league team coaches, they hired Bart Andrus. I know I worked for Hal Mummy. We were all hoping that Hal would get a job, and just it didn't work out that way. So I don't know if he'll end up with an XFL job potentially next year. If he does that and the Godfather calls the air raid, I'm going. But what? If something shows up with an indoor team, one of those things, I'm all in.
I'd like to see you in the NFL. How about that?
Yeah, come help develop some of these Eagles.
The interesting thing is, and I think it's so funny. It's like the run and shoot. I mean, I was a run and shoot guy before I became an air raid guy because I've known Hal for 30 years. I actually started this whole thing at Iowa Wesleyan College way back. But I was a run and shoot coach, and it's interesting. When Mouse and June Jones got into the league, and you look at all the run and shoot concepts that are, and even Kevin Gilbride, and I know he was running more of a pro style offense, but if you really broke down what he did with the Giants, there's a ton of run and shoot concepts in there. But you look at it today, there's a ton of air raid concepts in the NFL, and I think the thing that would be interesting though, and we were very simple in the spring league just because of the time constraints. We put this team together. The other teams, we were in an expansion team, and the other teams had already had their players together. They'd been doing Zoom meetings and stuff. We met our players the first time 9 days before the first game, and we lost the first one, and then we ran the table and won the championship. But we kept things super simple. I'll never forget one of the teams left their scouting report for a game on the copy machine in a hotel, and it was like 100 pages. We never handed out a scouting report. We just kind of repped our stuff all the way through. And, we were the best offense in the league. We led in rushing offense, passing offense. We were the best. So that's what I'd like to see is, can you take that concept of being simple and just allowing your players to execute, and could that be successful in the NFL? That would be the next step. And people say, well, the NFL's too good. These guys are too good. Maybe it is. I don't know. I've never coached there. But I'd really like to see if you kept things just ultra simple and just repped to where your guys could do it in their sleep. I just wonder what that would look like. So, yeah, I'd like to have that opportunity. For sure.
I like it. Well, we'll call Coach Sirianni and try to hook you up with that connection.
Okay.
I actually don't have his number. I hate to say it. Real quick, I'm going to wrap it up. So this is Coach Dale Carlson. He's one of the clients over at Pro Level Sports Agency, which is a great company. I love it. I love Buddy. I love Vince. There's some great people over there. I'm going to end the interview with this, Dale. You said you're living in the Indy area. All I could say is good luck with the Carson Wentz drama this offseason. And listen to that on every sports talk radio. We dealt with it last offseason. You guys get to deal with it this offseason. So good luck with that.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things. And I'm not ever being in the room and stuff. But if I watched the Colts, tremendous running game, tremendous offensive line. They have absolutely no help on the outside. So, it'd be interesting to see if Frank Reich and Ballard are going to hitch their wagon one more year, because the owner is not a happy camper, and money is not an object to Irsay. So he'll pull the trigger, boom, like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here during the free agency period, what they decide to do. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. I feel your pain.
Well, thank you very much for coming on Trending in the AM this morning. I greatly appreciate it. Hopefully we can get you on another time sometime soon to talk some more football and all, because this has been a very enlightening interview and conversation.
Oh, I'm happy to do it anytime. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. All right, so that was Coach Dale Carlson, formerly of the TSL lineman, and literally, if you look at this guy's player or coaching profile on the Pro Level Sports Agency website, this guy literally has so many credits on it.
Football.
Yeah, Yeah, live and breathe football's been there, forever. And it was really interesting to hear some of the things. And I want to recap some of the things that he talked about. But the first thing, Jason, I want to get you, I don't know if you picked up on this or not. The first thing that I noticed that I picked up on when we were talking about Jalen Reagor, and he was talking about how Travis Kelce was still working on the fundamentals, before a playoff game with the tennis ball thing. And we've talked about it with Ben Simmons. We've talked about it with Carson Wentz. And I guess we could talk about it with Jalen Reagor too, is do you really want it? And to take that next step, you've got to really want it. So I don't know. I mean, we always talk about it with Ben Simmons and Carson Wentz and whether they want it. Does Jalen Reagor really want it?
Spot on. I guess we'll have to see. If he really wants it, this would be the year. I mean, obviously he's running out of time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, if he's a guy that realistically believes in himself and believes that he does have the talent to not necessarily show that he was worthy of a first round pick, but just be able to show that he can actually play football in the NFL, because let's face it, a lot of people think he can't, and he hasn't shown that he can. So I think that this is a huge year for him. He needs to come into camp hungry and prepared and ready to work and ready to work hard, because when you're not on a superstar level, let's face it, 90% of us have to work hard and bust our asses to get to a good level. Not every, it's a very few select group. It's a very select group.
Yeah, but even those elite players, which you're leading to, like, because you look at Travis Kelce, him still working on the fundamental. I mean, to be the best tight end in football, to be one of the best tight ends of all time, you still got to work at it every single day.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that they don't.
No, I know.
I guess the point I'm making is that you have elite, and then you have the rest. Generally, there's a small portion of people that combine that elite, whether it's athleticism and talent. The other select area has to rely on working hard. Like, not that the people that have it already don't have to work hard. They do too. But I guess your work ethic has to be second to none if you want to succeed, especially in a league such as the NFL. Like, let's face it, how many people make the NFL?
Yeah,
it's just like Major League Baseball. How many guys? I know a ton of people that made, even in the minor leagues, but they never made it to the majors because it's so hard. Why is it so hard? Because it's exactly what you said. You have to want it. People, it's not going to be given to you on a silver platter just because you were a first-round pick. I mean, you heard him say it. Like, a lot of first-round picks struggle. I mean, Jerry Rice, that was actually a good example. I never thought of Jerry Rice.
No, neither have I.
Now
you always forget about it.
Look at his numbers, but yeah, I mean, he, obviously there's probably other examples besides Jerry Rice. So, and I'm not saying Jalen Reagor's Jerry Rice, but
I'm pulling up his Pro Football Reference stat page right now, Jerry Rice. So in his rookie year, he played in all 16 games, only started 4 of them. He had 49 catches for 927 yards, 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, not great. His second year, maybe he didn't struggle as much. His second year, he led the league in receiving and in touchdowns. He was 6. So his first year, he struggled at parts. But his third year, he only had 65 catches, 64 catches, and 88. Yeah, so he had some iffy years early on in his career, but he wasn't that 100-catch guy till his 5th year in the league. So it's interesting though, because we don't think about Jerry Rice as anything but the best wide receiver of all time. And that came up. That was good. Everybody, I've talked about on so many shows. There's a reason why very few Justin Jefferson rookie seasons happen. DK Metcalf rookie seasons happen. Very few of them happen. Wide receiver to me is, outside of quarterback, the hardest position for a rookie player to come into the NFL.
Well, it's a fact. I mean, like, you got to look at some of these guys. Like I said, Davante Adams wasn't just Davante Adams coming out. Yeah. I mean, he was a 2nd-round pick. He had the talent, but it took him a good 3 or 4 years to get where he's actually, an elite wide receiver.
Where he's going to break the record for money paid to a wide receiver this offseason.
And same thing with there's 100 of them. I mean, you could go down the list of guys. Cooper Kupp is another one. I mean, they're both like, there's so many wide receivers and you see it. a lot of more wide receivers actually become elite that were drafted later. There's hardly any on the boards that were first round picks, and there's a reason for that, because a lot of times in college these guys are like superstars, but when you go to the NFL, it's a different game. And I think a lot of it comes down to mentality, and I think that's you nailed it, dude. I think that's exactly why Jalen Reagor to this point has not been able to get better. I'm not necessarily saying that he's on Ben Simmons' level as far as not caring, but he obviously doesn't want it bad enough. Because people that want something bad enough, they get it at all costs.
Right.
They don't let the negativity bother them. They don't let the social media stuff affect them. They're the ones that say beforehand, I'm not going to go on social media. I'm not going to because a bunch of fans are clowning me. Now, listen, there is a fine line. And you protected him, and we all did when he was being, bullied. That's not right. Like, but to be critical of a guy that hasn't lived up to the bill, and I mean, if you look at his numbers, it's absolutely terrible. I mean, he's done nothing. Like, it's not even like he had like 40 catches for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns, and you could say, oh, he's progressing. Right. He has not shown one instance of improvement. So I'm hoping that I'm not that guy that's going to sit here and say that Jalen Reagor can't improve, because I've seen it where guys have taken a couple years. So I'm hoping that this is the year, because let's face it, I don't think any of us want him to not be good. I mean, if he's better, that's like an ace in the hole for the team.
Right. Yeah, so. I agree. That's excellent. So the other thing, because I mean, I'm not up against a crunch here, so we can continue talking about this interview. Again, Coach Dale Carlson was on. He spoke so highly and glowingly of Nick Sirianni. And how do I phrase this question or this comment the right way? So, there's people that didn't like Nick Sirianni at first, or the hire. But, also this offseason with Coach Jonathan Gannon getting a lot of head coaching interviews. And we talked about it a few times, where these guys are getting these interviews because they're well respected around the league. Like, people don't look at Jonathan Gannon and the Eagles' defensive results this year and say that's a bad. What they look at is the lack of talent and how good he was able to make that team, even with the lack of talent. So someone like, Nick Sirianni, where people all around the league talk so highly and glowingly of him, same thing with Jonathan Gannon, people respect him and all. I think it's a bright spot for the future of the Eagles, whether it's this upcoming season or not, whether it's, going forward for the next 3 or 4 years. We have a guy that people really respect the opinion and the style of coaching and the way he develops people. They really respect what he's done. And let's be honest, at a pretty young age so far.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Wow.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't planning on talking this, so this was not part of it. But I kind of had to throw it. I think the point I'm trying to make is that everybody was judging Jonathan Gannon. Why is he getting these head coaching interviews? At this point, because he doesn't deserve it, or the Eagles' defense was not very good, or whatever it may be. But in NFL and in coaching circles, people can look beyond just the stats or the rankings or whatnot and see when somebody's a really good coach or not, see what the talent level is. We as fans, as morning show hosts, we just judge on records and on stats and on rankings. And I try to do more than that. I try to look beyond that. I hope that we try to be different on this show than the average person, but the average shows, the average people, they overreact to what they just see on Sunday. But hearing Coach Carlson talk so glowingly of Nick Sirianni, it kind of set like a light bulb off that we have to think the same way about Jonathan Gannon potentially. And I've already said it, that I'm glad he didn't get a head coaching job, because I'm glad that he's coming back this upcoming season. Because if you look beyond the numbers, the Eagles defense exceeded what the expectation should have been because of the lack of talent.
Dude, how many coaches come in and have extreme success in year one in any system? It doesn't happen a lot. So you're right. I think we tend, and it's not just we as football fans. We in Philly obviously tend to have knee-jerk reactions like to everything. So it's always on a microscope. So it's easy to sit there and say, wow, Jonathan Gannon sucks. But you have to admit that you got to look at the talent on that side of the ball. And it's pretty much not really that good. I mean, let's face it.
Bare bones, yeah.
Fletcher Cox is older. Like, we've talked about how bad the defensive end situation is.
Mm-hmm.
Cornerback, realistically, you have Darius Slay, and that's pretty much and Maddox has done good, and I'll give Maddox. But safety struggle. So, and linebackers terrible. Like, you don't have a lot of horses in the stead. Like, there's not a lot there. It's so when you judge somebody, especially a coach or a manager, there's two ways to look at it. You could say, well, a good manager and a good coach gets the best out of what he has. And that's true. Mm-hmm. But I think if you looked at last year's season, Eagles defense wasn't like bottom tier. It might not have been top tier, but it wasn't bottom tier. Mm-hmm. And, for some of the things that, everyone wanted to be critical about, there were areas of the defense that actually did do well. So I don't think it's just one thing where you can just say, oh, well, this guy sucks. I mean, I know we all do it, but I agree. I think Jonathan Gannon has an ability to be better. And obviously people are, the fact that he had these coaching interviews, he's obviously sought after. Mm-hmm. So that's got to tell you something. When there's somebody that's sought after, it tells you that there is I don't want to use the word aura because it's not really that's the right word. It tells you that there's like intel about him that we don't know about.
There's a reputation, a behind the scenes reputation.
Correct. Yeah. So I agree. I think Jonathan Gannon could. Let's see how this draft works out in free agency.
Let's see how free agency. Yeah, let's see how it goes. So the other thing I asked him the question about that I thought was interesting. Do you think that there's now going to be excess expectations on Nick Sirianni and the staff of the Eagles? Because let's be honest, there was no expectations last year. A 4-win team with a new coaching staff, a basically a rookie quarterback, and the Eagles exceeded expectations last year. And I asked the question, what does that put undue expectations and pressure on the staff now that they've jumped the gun a little bit in their rebuilds? And he said, because he didn't use the term, but basically, what I've always said, the NFL stands for not for long. Got the Eagles take a step back this year, even though they're still technically in that development stage. There's going to be a lot of fire on Nick Sirianni, even though he was only supposed maybe this upcoming maybe he should have won 4 to 6 games last year, 8 to 9 games this upcoming season. If he has another 8 or 9 win season, makes or misses the playoffs, that's not progress. In the overreaction, knee-jerk reaction of Philly fans, that's get him out of here. We need a new head coach. What are your thoughts on? Is there extra expectations now on this coaching staff?
Well, there's definitely extra expectations, but let's be realistic here. With the amount of draft capital that the team has and the amount of money they have in free agency to go out and sign players, if this team ends up 4-11 next year, to me, the guy that most definitely deserves to be on the hot seat more than Sirianni or more than anybody is Howie Roseman. Because he has an ability right now to go from being a guy that we consider a good GM to great. This is his opportunity, but he has to come through in this, man. Like I said, I've given Howie Roseman some credit because I was fire Howie. Howie must get this done, Phil. There's no excuse when you have 3 first-round picks. He has to get this right. Regardless of what happens, whether he uses all 3 first-rounders, whether he trades one in the next year, whether they use 2 of them and get a quarterback, whatever he does, I think this season falls squarely on Howie Roseman's shoulders, regardless of Sirianni. Obviously, Sirianni's going to get criticized.
Yeah.
But your GM, when you're in a position to kind of basically alter the franchise, dude, to be in a position where we're at, there's not many times where a team has 3 first-round picks and $60 million in cap space. Doesn't happen that often.
Right.
So he's got to get this right. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
I think that
I guess we have to take into account, but whether the expectations are sped up for Nick Sirianni depends on what Howie Roseman does. I guess that's what based off of what you're saying, that's what I'm now feeling, that I can't judge Nick Sirianni until I see what Howie Roseman does. I can't judge what the expectations should be on Nick Sirianni until I see what Howie Roseman does. I guess one influences the other so much.
Well, yeah, because let's face it, if Howie Roseman, let's just say, and I don't want to get bashed here, but let's just say Howie Roseman does go out and we get Russell Wilson, and,
right.
and they trade Jalen, and he gets like another wide, they sign, Chris Godwin or whoever.
Right.
They make all these moves. Then yes, the onus is on Sirianni because Howie made good moves and he got guys that you would think better improve this team. So, but my point is like, if he doesn't do those kind of things and he goes out and drafts a quarter, like we don't know what's going to happen. So I think that's where I'm at with it. I'm kind of being patient and waiting to see how this all pans out. Now, when is free agency? Because I said a week.
It's a couple weeks. Right? It's soon. I'll figure that out shortly. I want to transition because, we're at 51 minutes here. I know, I have nowhere to be. I'm in Fort Myers right now. You don't work till a little bit later. So we don't have to cut off at the exact hour mark today. But I do want to talk a little baseball. So we're going to transition from football to baseball. But again, shout out to Coach Dale Carlson. It was a great, I love my partnership with Pro Level Sports Agency because I get, these clients of theirs to talk football, and they come from all over the country. They play in different, like he was a Division III coach in some of the spring leagues. I've had football player, Coach Martinez, who's going over to coach in the Czech Republic League later this month. These guys, and they just bring different insights into what we're used to hearing on football. And we've got two more. We got a couple football players. We got a running back coming up on Thursday and a wide receiver on Friday coming on the show. They're trying to get their mark made in these alternate football leagues to maybe get some game film and maybe make it to the pros one day. So I love it, and I'm glad to get the Vince has gotten me some contacts this week, and over the next 2-3 weeks we're going to have 5-6 different people on this show. So major shout out to Coach Dale Carlson. Major shout out to Pro Level Sports Agency. Buddy Walters and Vince over there doing a great job there. But I want to talk baseball just for a few minutes because yesterday was the deadline. They were going to postpone the start of the season, cancel games, whatnot. But I guess they met till 2:30 in the morning last night and supposedly made enough progress where they extended the deadline where they won't cancel games till today. And I don't want to get into all, the owners are coming up a little bit more on some of these money issues. The players are caving a little bit more. But something it's like such a small thing to an extent, but to me is such a big thing. So that came out, what came out of yesterday's meetings with the reports from Jeff Passan and the guys that cover the lockout for ESPN is that the players made two proposals, on what they would give in on, and the owners want a 14-team playoff. That's insane. And the players in their two proposals, they said, all right, if you want 14 teams in the playoffs, sure, we'll agree to it, but we want all this. But if we just go up to 12, they're at 10 teams right now make the playoffs. If you go up to 12, we'll give in, give in here and we'll go to 12. But if you want 14, we want more. I want to know your thoughts because honestly, I can't say embarrassed. I would be, I'll come along. I'm an old schoolist. I don't want to hear about the DH in baseball. I don't want to hear about eliminating the shift. That's too whatever, but I'll accept those things if they do it. I'm going to have a really hard time accepting a 14-team Major League Baseball playoff, which is almost 50% of the teams. I would think that would almost render the regular season almost meaningless at this point.
It's despicable, dude. Major League Baseball is an absolute atrocity right now. Like, honestly, this just proves what I've been saying.
You've been saying it for nonstop.
It proves it that's what they're worried about. That's what these owners are worried about. They want 14 teams in playoffs. Are you freaking kidding me? 14 teams? Then you might as well just make the whole league make the playoffs. Yeah. Talk about the problems with why leagues are screwing things up and why the NFL is just so far advanced to any of these other leagues. Why? Why?
Yeah, I saw this funny tweet. I don't know if it was not funny. It was very intriguing to me. I don't know if it was Jeff Passan. It was one of the guys that are covering this lockout for ESPN. Put out a tweet yesterday, and he said, if you replace the 1,200 players in Major League Baseball with the next best 1,200 players that could come up and play, you would see a major drop off in quality, and obviously. But if you replace the 30 owners with 30 random business people, you wouldn't see a drop off. If anything, it would probably go up. Is that not insane to think that, you could just replace them with 30 random? I just don't get it. And, I didn't want to get into, the detail. It's just 14 teams. You have a 162 game regular season. 14 teams. That was the Phillies last year. They were 82-80. They were the Phillies a quality enough team to be considered a playoff team?
Absolutely
last year?
Not.
But they would have been the 7th team in the NL. They would have made the playoffs last year.
We talk about how this has become the era of the participation trophy. Well, this
Absolutely.
is like the absolute pinnacle of that. You're going to allow 14 teams to make the playoffs.
It's because of money. It's what it comes down to. Because the playoff money and the network
but it's
money.
Ridiculous. Like they're acting like they're poor. I don't feel sorry for any of the owners. I don't.
Yeah.
If I side with anybody, I side with the players over the owners.
Yeah.
The owners have money. Shut up. Shut up. I don't want to hear about how you're going poor. I don't want to hear, John Middleton about why he won't go over the tax. Screw it. You guys have a lot of money. You have a chance in this game. You have enough star players that you could make this game better. But and yet you're worried about making 14 teams make the playoffs. How about you worry about how can you make the game better? How can we speed up the game?
Yeah, exactly.
How about you worry about what's going to actually help get people, young kids who are tuned out to actually watch the game?
Yeah.
Well,
I've been a sponsor at my pizza shop at the local Little League for a long time. The Kennett area Little League, KAU. And when I was a kid, the Little League fields packed. Everybody was fighting. So there were teams that were, there were dozens of people signing up for every Little League team. Nowadays, they can barely get 9-10 kids to sign up for a team because the youth of today have been so turned. They just don't care about the game. They just don't. Kids today are playing hockey. They're playing lacrosse. They're playing
bad is
other.
that?
Yeah, and baseball is America's pastime. It's one of the longest traditional sports in the United States. But yet was it you or was it Mark yesterday that said that it's probably third and might fall to fourth? Was it you that said that in the level of importance in the U.S.? I mean, it's hard to imagine.
Soccer going to become bigger than it's
possible. It's very possible
in front of our eyes because
more kids are playing soccer. More kids are playing soccer than baseball at this point.
If baseball continues to alienate people, that's what's going to happen, and that's what I don't understand.
Soccer's the most boring sport there is.
It's like we say it every time, and it's so cliche, but it's the definition of insanity. It's doing the same thing over and expecting the same, a different result. You're not going to have a different result. You're making it worse. What in your right mind? You're right. It's money. We all know that. Money is the almighty decision maker in anything.
Yeah.
But it sucks that that's what it is. Are they that hurt for money? Like, really? I don't understand. I don't understand.
There is the theory, and this is going to just set you off, and you're just going to go completely crazy.
I'm going to lose a vein.
Breathe. Woosah. The owners have said that baseball is not a profitable business to own, which is insane because the TV deals and the money they make on the TV deals is because that was in the Jeff Passan article that I read this morning, that the owners claim that they don't make money because it's not a profitable business to own. But then Jeff Passan in the article completely shut that down because he went over all the numbers, what all these teams make in the TV deals, the national and the Phillies, when they, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, NBC Sports, Comcast, whatever it was, 5 or 6 years ago, the local sports channel signed a 5-year, $3.5 billion contract to air Phillies games. So you telling me John Middleton has blown through that $3 billion already? And dude, I don't want to ever hear that baseball is not a profitable business. If it's not a profitable business, that's your own fault as a businessman. That means you're doing something wrong. Not that, because you're blowing through your money somehow. But I just thought it was interesting that right now the players are willing to give in so much on the money aspects because they don't want a 14-team playoff. They understand what we understand, how diluted the regular season will be if you go to a 14 playoff team. Did you see Bryce Harper's tweet yesterday?
Yeah, he was going.
Or Instagram post. He put himself he edited himself in a Tokyo Giants, where he's like, anybody hiring over there or whatever. That really got me scared. I saw that, and I know he's not going to go to play in Japan, but at that point, I thought that meant that the meetings were ending quickly and that they were going to just cancel a portion of the season. That's what I thought. That I thought that post was a subtle dig or a little like, hey, wink, wink, fans, so you know this deal is not getting done today, which it didn't get done. But I guess, maybe he was just straight trolling.
I think it was a troll and dig at the league.
Right.
For the fact that they better get their head out of their ass.
Yeah.
And let me ask you a question. If they're not a profitable business, then why are these teams giving players $350 million a year?
Exactly.
Then stop giving them $300 million contracts.
You know what else is interesting that came out of all this yesterday? One of the greatest players of all time was a minority owner and basically the CEO of the Miami Marlins, Derek Jeter, and he stepped down. Now, there's not much details. His statement basically went around this thing. The organization and me, our visions are different, blah, blah, blah. But to me, I think it's kind of coincidental that during the lockout, one of the greatest players of all time that helped represent the players through a lot of negotiations, doesn't want to be part of the front office of an organization anymore. I don't know. Maybe I'm connecting dots that shouldn't be connected. Maybe that there's no connection there at all. But in my mind, the players and the owners are having this really hard-fought battle over things, and a player that's a legend, who's in a front office. I think it said he owned only 4% of the Marlins, but he basically was the day-to-day operations, the CEO of the team, doesn't want to do that anymore. And he was selling off his 4% back to the team. I mean, am I connecting dots that shouldn't be connected there?
No, I think it's absolutely.
There's got to be a thread there, doesn't there?
I think he's fed up with the league, and like I said, I hate to get freaking out about it, but I am so disgusted and hurt that the sport. I'm sorry, I'm actually getting teared because I'm passionate about it. I love baseball, and I hate.
I say it all the time.
The
my
fact
first
that
tattoo is my Philly tattoo.
I hate the fact that this game has become a freaking, shell of itself. Like it's not the same anymore. I don't have fun watching it.
We're going to do a show at some point before the next season, or if the lockout continues, talking about what we would do to change the game, to make the game faster, to make the game more enjoyable. How to attract the younger audience, because there's got to be ways. I don't know if you're an American Dad fan. Do you ever watch American Dad, the cartoon?
I've watched it.
There's an episode where the dad gets asked to make some changes to baseball, but his son takes over because the owners want a young kid to see and he completely changes the game. He's got robot. It's completely over the top and crazy. And you don't need to go that crazy, but there's got to be ways that you can attract a younger audience. I have a small little side story here. So I forget his name because I wasn't prepared for this. There's a young catcher in the Phillies organization. He played for Reading this year, O'Toole or O'Hoopy or something like that. I forget his name now. But anyway, customer of mine came into the pizza shop a couple of weeks ago, and I've actually reached out to this player. I haven't heard back from him, get him on the show. But he was he went to a Reading he went to a minor league game, and this player was so how do I say this, engaging to this young kid that this kid, he was this past weekend, he was trying out for Little League for the first time. The players being more engaging, the teams being more engaging with the young kids, that'll draw them in. And this kid now, just because he met this minor league guy that, he's gonna probably make the majors at some point with the Phillies or somebody else. But this kid, this minor leaguer, engaged this fan, and then the kid sent a letter to the team saying, "Thank you, I want you to know." Then the player sent another letter back, autograph equipment. Like, this kid has developed a relationship with this young player and influenced him. Now he's trying out he never was going to try out before. They emigrated over here from Ireland, so he wasn't even born in the States. This kid, baseball was the last sport on his mind. But this experience with this young player in the Phillies organization has now influenced this kid to want to learn and play the game, and that's something that we need more of. But it starts with the owners and trickles down to the coaches, which trickles down to the players. If the players are grumpy because of this whole thing, they're not going to be engaging the fans because they're going to be so miserable anyway. So it's another topic for another day, but I wanted to bring that up because I thought it was so, interesting on how a young player, it's not like it was Bryce Harper meeting this kid. It was a minor leaguer. He was still in single A. He's now in double A. A minor leaguer, just meeting and chatting with this kid has influenced this kid to become a baseball player now. So I think it's crazy the effect that these young athletes have on kids today. And if you want young people to be interested in the sport, you got to do things differently than what they're doing right now.
I mean, 100%. I think, one guy that has been very engaging and it's such a blessing is Bryce Harper. I mean, that's what's amazing about it. Like, to have a superstar that is actually as passionate as he is towards the fans, and he loves Philly. Like, you could tell that he does. I mean, talk about a guy that's going to be pissed off if we don't get like more free agents too. I mean, let's not forget.
Well, I hope
what happened with that's the other thing. The free agency still hasn't ended, so it's like, dude,
there's gonna be a rapid
it's gonna be
fire.
insane.
Yeah,
like if this does go down,
which you call it? There was so there's two things I saw that the players are planning for a longer missed games. So we're the Grapefruit League, the Cactus League over there in Arizona. Those teams, the Player Association has set up an off-site camp. So any players that want to start prepping without their team, that just on their own, so that come whenever this ends and you have to report to your team that you're semi
in shape.
In shape. And they're working on the Grapefruit League doing the same thing. They also have, I didn't even realize, they have it's a joke term, but a slush fund, extra money set aside in the union so that the players on the lower end of deals can get a couple $1,000s a month to handle some expenses, because right now they don't have any income coming in. So the players are set up as a union if they need to. They don't want to, but if there's a stoppage. But the free agency thing, it's going to be. I hope this ends today, because in the rest of this week we could talk about free agency in baseball and whether Kyle Schwarber or Castellanos or whoever is going to come to Philly. But it's going to be rapid fire. And talking about collusion, I guarantee if, say, at 3:00 today the deal is signed, then at 3:30 someone's going to be signing the contract as a free agent and tell me that there wasn't no collusion going on behind the scenes. I guarantee there's behind the scene deals being worked out right now with these free agents. It's going to be like the NFL and the tampering, the legal tampering period that's going on right now. There's no doubt about it in my mind.
Oh, spot on.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up there for today. Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media Live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Again, you know the drill. Like the show, retweet the show, share the show. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit the thumbs up. Click the subscribe and click the bell. That'll turn the notifications on so you won't miss a minute of the action on DSM Media. This has been a great episode. Fantastic conversation with Coach Dale Carlson of the Pro Level Sports Agency. If you need a coach, if you're listening, you're a college coach, and you need somebody or in one of these leagues, give Pro Level Sports Agents a call and maybe get an interview set up with Dale Carlson, because, man, I learned in 28 minutes of talking to Coach Dale Carlson. I feel like I'm a more smarter football person now just listening to him talk about the sport. So it was a blast. And, we got, like I said, some more guys coming in from Pro Level Sports Agency this week and next. I'm still working on some, but, I got a running back and a wide receiver. Hakeem Williams, Jr., he's a talented wide receiver.'s going to be coming on. Stephen Rucker-Carroll, he's going to be coming on. So stay tuned. And tonight, 9 p.m., I'll be back. Fairway to Heaven, Jason Sullivan and I, and the Model Mania. Yeah, the other Jason. When I talk to my wife, I got to say, she's like, which Jason are you talking about? So when I talk to my wife, I just say Voorhees or Sullivan. I don't call you Jason anymore to my wife because I never know who I'm talking about. But we'll be back. We got a great guest tonight. He's called the Model Maniac, which, if you know golf, you got to have your models. We'll be talking to him tonight as we preview the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in today. Jason, follow him at Mustang3651, me, Phil Stifle at Beard of Knowledge. Yo, we could go back to saying go Birds today, can't we?
No, I want to do 6s and 5. Let's keep it going.
All right.
Set a trend. You set a trend.
All right, we're going Sixers in 5, baby.